Hey everybody, Kevin here from Team Jacob, and wanted to go through a quick video to show how Jacob can be used with a variety of different design scenarios. So Jacob is an open source AI powered coding agent. Jacob is primarily tuned today to go from a Figma design into an actual working React component. Although there's many things that Jacob can be set up to do, we wanted to start with that one as sort of a reference implementation of what the platform is capable of. And then from there, we can do lots of other things with the system. And hopefully by open sourcing this, we get lots of good contributions and ideas from everybody else out there. So to start off, this is at docs.jacb.ai. It stands for Just Another Coding Bot. And you can go through and get started with just a few quick steps here. So there's a GitHub app. Just go ahead and install that into your repository that you want to use. Then we have this quick configuration that you can go through. This is just a command line tool. You run this npx Jacob setup create. You can go through, create a basic config. And the point of this is to get all the custom details about your repository to the Jacob system. So that when you write code, it's not just random kind of demo code. It's actually tuned to exactly the way that you write code. It's able to understand all of your files in your system and all your folders and where to put all the files that it needs to do. So go ahead and create that. That takes about 5 minutes or so. And you can always edit that after the fact. So that'll create a Jacob config in your repo. Just go ahead and commit that. And then when you're done, we've got this Figma plugin. And so just go ahead and open this up. And in this place, this case, we're going to open this Jacob tutorial. So here we are. So this is our tutorial. And this is just to give people a quick sense of kind of what Jacob is capable of, and also just as a way to try this out. So if you don't have a Figma design, or you just aren't quite sure what Jacob is capable of, hopefully, you take 20, 30 minutes, get a sense of how this works, and happy to dive in here and show you guys what Jacob is capable of. All right, so we're going to start off with our first section here. And we're basically going to create this little hero section of a landing page. Okay, pretty basic stuff. We purposely chose a simple one here just to kind of get you started with Jacob. And so we're going to go through these steps. The first thing to do is to launch the plugin. So if you didn't already install it and have it set up, you can go here to plugins. Now, if this is your first time going through, you're going to have to authenticate with GitHub, and that allows you to connect all of these repos here. And so we can see, directly create issues and eventually pull requests and code directly into your repo instead of you having to copy and paste and do a whole bunch of stuff. All right, and so we're going to start out by creating this new file. We'll just call this a hero, and this is a component, right? So that's fine. And then this box will let you do any kind of additional instructions. We'll get into that feature in just a minute here. But for now, first just make sure that you've selected this component here. If you haven't selected that, it won't show up here. So make sure that this looks like the thing that you want to go and build. And then in the background, you can see here we have created a GitHub issue. What we're actually doing in the background is a couple things. First of all, we are taking a snapshot of your design and sending that over to GPT for the vision endpoint. But we're also we've done a lot of work to basically take all of the detailed frames and all the children and all the details of this Figma design, which is tens of thousands potentially lines of JSON config, and we've converted that into a language we're calling Jacob ML, which is a LLM friendly description of that design. So between the actual snapshot of it and also all the details from that design, that's what gives you a much higher quality starting point for this code. Let's go ahead and check out what just happened there. So you can see here, we have this issue that was created. So this was created a minute ago. And the first thing we do is we create sort of a first draft of this code. So this isn't the actual live working code. You can see here a bunch of placeholders, but this is just meant to get all of the basic information over to the code creation side as quickly as possible. And then we have a series of instructions. And so if you remember earlier, we went through a step of creating a config to kind of tell the LLM, how do we like to create code? You know, are you using plain CSS? In this case, I use Tailwind. I'm using style components, whatever your preferred styling method is. You can add in your icon kit that you would prefer. And basically, these are just kind of your preferences and things that you would want to use, you know, for this given repository. We've got this temporary snapshot. So this is a basically an S3 signed URL. So this will expire pretty quickly. The idea here is we want to just keep this alive so we can use this to help write this code, but don't want this to live forever publicly in a repo. So we've got this signed URL. And then if there are other images, we'll see this later. These will be pulled directly in here. And these are actually saved directly into this branch, and then you can use them in the repository. Now in the background, Jacob's going to do a few things. Jacob is basically going through and creating a plan of what to do. Jacob's also a little bit of a mini CI system. So we're running your build, all your tests, all your lints, all your stuff that needs to be done. And the reason we're doing that is to make sure that whatever code we write, you know, this is done in a secure sandbox container. And then we want to make sure that the code is, you know, to your standards and is passing your tests and is building correctly. And then it goes through and actually writes that code. So it writes the code, it then parses it out, saves it to the file system, make sure that we get the real files set up in there. And when it's done, as you just saw here, we get this comment that said, hey, we've actually created a pull request. We really designed Jacob to really take advantage of the, you know, decades of workflow that you know, we're already used to, right? Like you get a new person on the team, you can assign them an issue, they're going to write some code. They're not going to just push this right to main, right? We want them to actually, you know, have it as a pull request and we can review it, make changes, all that stuff. Okay. So here's a summary of what was done. You know, we added in this plan, so you get a sense of what actually was kind of done behind the scenes. And then, in this case, we're using Storybook. So one of the config options is to write some tests or to use a third party like Storybook to actually create a story for this. And this is another one of those little things that, you know, really nice to have a Storybook story in your app. Kind of a pain to write them, kind of a pain to get all that stuff put together and remember to do it every time. And so to have an AI just do some of that tedious work for you, and you basically get that for free, tends to be quite helpful. And in this case, let's go ahead and check out this code. This will keep working on that story here in a minute. All right, so you notice a couple things here. So number one is, you know, we've got a full working component. This already builds. We know this is all set up in our application. We've used my preferred icon. You know, I like Font Awesome. And it went through and it understood kind of how to pull this stuff in, you know, and it pulled in this icon here. And if you remember what that design looks like, you know, basically it was kind of just like a placeholder for this thing here. And then what else we have? Oh, just kind of the basic, you know, information here. Gives you all the information. And then we have a little button here. Now, we didn't tell the LLM how to wire up that button or what to do. So it basically just, you know, added a click handler and just put a little console lock here. This is totally fine, right? And a little note. We don't know what to do. It didn't hallucinate something. It basically just put a placeholder here for us to go ahead and update. Now, if I refresh this, again, in the background, Jacob was working on this, and we added this story. Again, this isn't hard code to write, but it's just something little that we just add in here to make it a little bit easier to you know, to view this and to have this in a nice format. So that's kind of a look at what Jacob is doing behind the scenes. Let's go ahead and do something a little bit more complex. So that's kind of the baseline issue for Jacob. Now, Again, there's a lot of Figma plugins where you can kind of do this and get some, some code. They're not going to do stuff like the icons or some of the click handlers, but, you can probably get 90% of the way there. Let's do something a little bit more complex. In this case, we're going to build out this part of our homepage. So this is a testimonial. And let's take a look at a few things here. Number one, notice we have these two little quote boxes here. And obviously very similar. You don't want to repeat all the code here twice. So we actually want to make like a little subcomponent here. So we've got our main component, which is our testimonial with two little quote components in here. And that all should be dynamic, and we pass that in. And then we've got this little number here. So this is the number of users. So that should be dynamic, right? So we'll pass that into our component, and that should work okay. All right, so again, let's go ahead and select this, fire up Jacob, and we'll use that same repo. This is just a T3 starter template. We literally just went out. This is just a template to create a Next.js app with a few things like Tailwinds, and we got Storybook installed there. This is fully open source. You guys can check that out. It's available. But no funny business. We're just kind of using a standard starter template to get started there. And then let's see here. We want a new one. Let's call this again testimonial. I think that's spelled right. Testimonial. Looks good. Okay, in this case, let's start using these instructions. So this is actually a really powerful thing to do. I'm going to just copy this over here. We'll make this easy. Okay, and then notice the preview because I clicked on that. We had that. So just make sure you get this back. Okay, but these instructions are really straightforward. And this is basically what you would tell another dev if you were to, look at this design and say, hey, I want to build this out. So what I would say is something like, I want to create a separate subcomponent called quote. It's going to take an image URL, rating, quote, name, website. And then go ahead and hard code this information because this is like a hero page, You didn't have to hard code that, but let's just hard code it for now. And then let's make the number of Happy Landfolio users dynamic. But again, use that default. So that's that top part here. Now, I could be a lot more precise with my language here. I could, give a little bit more information. It's kind of good enough, right? Like, the LLMs are pretty good about interpreting what you're saying, and able to just kind of handle a lot of things on the fly. Again, this takes about 30, 60 seconds to go through and create this. It takes a little bit longer in this case because we have these images. So it's got to grab these images. It's got to send those over to S3. We're going to create these secure links. We're going to get that over into that issue. So that just takes a little bit of time, but not too bad. So it's spinning. And that'll pop up in just a sec here. All right, in the meantime, let's go ahead and take a look at our next component. So on the surface, this looks pretty straightforward, right? Just a pie chart. And in this case, this is a pie chart showing the blood types for a handful of different random people. Okay. We basically have four main types, A, B, and O. And, nice looking chart here with the colors. So what's interesting is, if we were to try to use a normal Figma plugin to do this, what's it going to do? It's going to give you a hard-coded pie chart, best case scenario, right? It's going to give you this hard-coded pie chart. This information here, it's not going to pull it dynamically or anything like that. So let's go a little bit farther here with these custom instructions. And again, we'll kick off Jacob. We will first choose our repo, give it a name. In this case, we'll call it blood type pie chart. There's a reason why we're using blood type. I'll show you in a sec. And then let's grab this. Where's this text? There we go. All right, grab that text. Select our pie chart again. Okay, and so for this, again, what would you tell a developer? I'm going to say create this pie chart using Chart.js graphing library. I'm not sure if you actually need to say that or if you just say a popular React graphing library. In this case, I wanted to specifically use Chart.js because I've used it before and I know it works. And And then here, we're actually giving it an API endpoint. So the data should be populated dynamically from this API. Now, in this case, I used randomdataapi.com. Right? This is just a sample that you can pull. This is just open on the web. There's no CORS or any kind of weird stuff here, so it makes it easy for demos. But, of course, if this was your application, just put whatever your API endpoint, /API/ blood types or whatever, and it'll use that instead. And then just a little description of what we're trying to do here. So the chart should show each blood type, and then we're highlighting the field name as type, and then the number of people from that data set that have that type. Now, what does this data look like? Let's just pull this up here. So again, this is just a random sample data, but you can see here we've got an ID, we have a type. There's a group you could do even deeper if we wanted to do plus, minus, all that stuff. That would be fine too, but in this case, let's just keep it simple. Let's just do this type. And that's about it. All right, so let's start writing that code. Now, if you think about behind the scenes, like what's actually going to happen here, as opposed to that first one where we just had like a placeholder click handler, we actually have to do some stuff here in code along with the design. So first of all, we're going to be pulling in from a new charting library. So, we're going to have to go and grab that. How would you do that? You go to NPM or something, install it. Jacob's going to have to figure out how to do that. And then we have that API endpoint. So it's going to have to know how to go and do a fetch and asynchronously wait. It's going to have to happen on load. So probably use effects. Hopefully you'll know to do that. And then when that data comes back, it's just coming back as a, JSON, an array of different objects. So it's going to have to actually loop through there and start to count up the A's versus the B's versus the O's. So probably, a reduce or something is probably most efficient. We'll see if it does a for loop or something. I'm not quite sure. We'll see what it does. And then when it's done, it's got to put it in a format that is appropriate for that chart.js library. Now, this is a library I'm not super familiar with. I've used it. It's been fine. But could I tell you off the top of my head the name of the component and how to format all that data correctly and get everything set? No. I could go look it up. I don't want to look it up. I want the AI to do my work for me. And so let's see how close it can get there. All right, so our last example here is something that's a little bit, of a common scenario that you have with a designer, which is, basically building out a component library, right? So when your designer hands off a Figma with a bunch of components in it, you often get a situation like this, which is you're not just given a single variant. You're actually given 4 or 5 or 10 or 20 different variations of how this component can be used. In this case, we've got our simple, actually, we got nice names here. Our toast variation. This is from a real, all these are from a real kind of open source components. So, just pulled these from the web. I didn't make any of this stuff up. So we start off with just a heading. This one has 2 buttons and a little bit more of a description. This one has bullet points. This one is just a text paragraph. We want to implement all of these. And of course, if you were to use a regular Figma plugin, what would you get? 4 different versions of these. You're going to have to do a bunch of work to kind of copy and paste and pull all this stuff apart. That's not what you want. You want a single variation and be able to just pass in a few simple, variables to be able to choose how this is actually rendered. All right, so let's see how Jacob can do with this. All right, so we'll kick off Jacob again. Also choose our repo. We should probably just remember this for next time. Well, we can add that in. Hopefully by the time you guys watch this video, that will have already been fixed. What are we calling this one? This one's called just toast, right? This is the toast component. Put in our custom instructions and okay, that preview looks good again. Okay, and it says here, this is very simple. Just create a single component called toast that can handle all 4 of these variations. Headings only, text, bullets, or buttons. And that's it. Okay. And this is where that Vision API really comes in handy, because you can send over this snapshot and just, the Vision API can actually understand something that looks like, oh, this is a design that has a couple variants. Hopefully won't get confused and think that it has to do 4 different things. So that, along with these instructions, is really going to help to get you the result that you want. This could be as complicated as, if you had different tags, or you had buttons and you want to have a success versus an info versus a warning, and different sizes and icons and all that stuff. You could get a very complex thing in here, and I think it would actually do quite a good job with it. So again, just really want to show off some of the unique features of Jacob, and there's obviously a ton you could do here, but just wanted to show a few common examples. All right, so what's happening? Let's go back here and see how Jacob is doing. Okay, so we have our, so we already showed that code. That looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and look at our testimonial page here. Again, we kind of have a couple examples here. You can see already, even just in the draft, we've created a separate quote component, right? Pulled all this stuff in. It's using an array. That's nice. Got these little stars. That's the rating system, right? So you get this. I would love to see this be a font awesome star instead of just this little character. I didn't even know you could do that. Cool. Anyway, this all looks good. And then testimonial, right? We're pulling in the user count. We're defaulting it nicely. We've got one of these quotes. This is an image. Jenny Wilson, Devin. All this information is already passed in. That looks really good, actually. And then we've pulled in these images, right? All right. And so here's the first. This is actually a good example here. So notice in this update, the changes currently result in a build error. Okay. So this is one of the features of Jacob. So if you see this, don't be concerned. This is good. This happens a lot, especially as you get a little bit more complex. So part of what Jacob is doing is, writing the code and then checking it to see what's going on. And if there are some build errors or some issues, it will take that as context and it'll keep going and iterating until it can get your code in a nice clean spot. All right. So in this case, let's just see what's going on here. So we've got this error message, and you can see here, this is so subtle. So it's saying that the image URL implicitly has an any type. Basically, we haven't typed our image URL, right? This is fairly common. Like, this is a minor thing. But because we have strict type checking on, and we've got our linting issues and rules in place, like, we actually, we want this to be correct, right? This is, typically a AI system's going to build some code and it'll be 90% of the way there, but you're still going to have to go in and add in all these types and all this annoying stuff. By having this hooked up to these builders and doing this iteration, you're able to get much, much closer to kind of final code right off the bat, as opposed to having to do a bunch of this work yourself. All right, so in this case, you can see this comment here that said, basically, we initially set this as a draft PR. So if it doesn't build, it'll still be there as a draft. So maybe it just has trouble doing something. You at least have an idea, or, that 90% ready to go code. So you can just pull down this branch. You can make adjustments and go from there. In this case, we finished and fixed that build error, and then it was marked as ready to go. So I got tagged, it's ready to review this. We're in the process of creating this story. And then we get our success message when it says, hello, human. Usually means that the PR has been finished. So let's take a look at what happened here. All right. So I'm seeing this stuff for the first time too. You can see here we pulled in these images, right? These are saved. In our config, we basically said, where do you want these images saved? And so that it knows where to put those. This is Next.js, so put it in public. Excuse me. And then in this case, we have a story that actually pulls in a few different variants, which is nice. So we'll be able to test out that dynamic, number. Here's our interface, which we did nicely. We have this nice type here. Here's our, this is the error that we had. So we need to do this. It's great to see that the was able to do that. I wanted to highlight a few more things here. Notice that we have the start of some responsiveness here, right? So Jacob is part of the process of the iterations is to go through and we basically will provide a evaluation framework for Jacob to say, here's how you will be evaluated based on the code that you write. And one of those evaluation points is given for fully responsive code. And you can see here we've got the starts of this. Here I don't love that we've got this little star here. And one thing that you can do is, and why not just do this right now? I'll just add this in here. See if there's anything else here. This all looks pretty good. So, right, we've got our user counts dynamic, happy landing folio. Don't just take our word for it, blah, 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 blah. We've got the images hooked up. Everything looks good. But I would like to see Font Awesome star here instead of a little random character star. Please replace the star character with a Font Awesome icon. All right, we'll see how it goes. So I'm going to submit this review and requested some changes, and Jacob will go through, do a little code review, make some changes, push that up, let me know when it's done. We have this set up actually in a, because we're using Storybook, we have a remote Storybook kind of set up here. You don't have to do this, but this is just, we have this in our repository. And you can see here, we've got, here's our actual design. You can see, a couple things. I want this image to be a little bit more round, and this one's a little bit, we want to use like a, what's it, fit or fill here, which is fine. Actually, these stars look okay. I don't hate the stars now that I look at it. But you can see here we've got different stories here. So this changes dynamically. More users, fewer users. You could do whatever you wanted here. E plus 56. That would be quite a successful application. But in this case, this looks pretty close to what we initially had here, right? And actually, in this case, we don't need to fully round it. I think if we just did a large rounded, that would be fine. These are yellow versus blue. That's interesting that it didn't understand that color. But just a few little minor things here. And again, we can go back into the, just do a quick review to do that or make some changes. And this is pretty typical from what I've seen with Jacob, which is like, you'll get 95% of the way there. And then it's just a few tweaks, adjustments to that code. And again, you can do it yourself, or you can actually do that code review and then just have Jacob do it for you. All right, let's take a look at our next one. So this is going to be the tricky one. So this is our pie chart, and already you can just see, what is being done here. First of all, we're pulling in, from Chart.js. It actually knew the right package name, so it's not Chart.js. It's actually React Chart.js 2 is the most recent. And we're pulling in a donut, so it's not a pie. It's actually a donut, which is fine. I would not have guessed that, but that's cool. We've got some, information here. So this is basically the data that will be passed in. Again, Chart.js, I don't know exactly how that stuff works, but we've got all these options and everything that's already set up. And this is really nice. This is stuff where it's like, yes, I could do all that stuff myself and look it up, but to have the AI just kind of handle that for you is really helpful. Okay, so we've done all this stuff. And then if you notice here, we've got our custom instructions down here. So this is part of what will hopefully, as Jacob goes farther, we'll actually go out and make the call to get that data and pass that in, get everything going. All right, so okay, so we got a little builder. We'll check this out. This one might have a couple builders because it's a much more complex thing, which is totally fine. My guess is going to be, we just don't have this charting library installed. So we're going to go out and try to install it. Okay, so we made a new commit. And then we're going to do a second piece here. In this case, here we go. We're trying to use Axios as a library to do the fetch. This is great. Again, not installed. Let's go ahead and install it. So again, it'll go through these kind of step-by-step process, and will keep correcting itself. And you can kind of see here, what these commits look like. In this case, you can see here we actually, ran an npm install. We got the latest version of, React Chart.js. It even added the types in there, which is nice, right? So we'll keep an eye on this. It'll keep going in the background as we go. But so already we've done. This is a lot closer to the final code that we actually want. So what do we got going on here? So first of all, look at this use effect, right? This happens right when the component mounts, which is great, exactly what we want. So we are doing well, first of all, remember, there's a use effect. It's not async. This is an async call, so we have to do this little pattern here, which is always feels like a pain to do, but it's correctly done this async call. Just doing a quick get. Nothing fancy we need to do with the Axios to set up any kind of auth, so this is good. We're just awaiting this. So the response.data, and then it's doing this reduce here, right? That's nice. So we have our accumulation of the current. We're mapping this. What does this look like? 0 + 1 type. Yeah, that looks right. Okay, so blood types. And what is a blood type? Have we typed this yet? I don't think we have. That's okay. We'll probably throw an error. I don't think it's going to love this not being typed, so we'll get that set. And then object.key is a blood type, so the keys are going to be the the A, the O, all that stuff, and then the values are going to be here. This is the basically all the counts of all that stuff. So this looks exactly right in terms of the logic. We've got these specific colors all pulled over directly from that design, so that should be right. What are we doing here? We got the donut here. This is sort of centered in the middle, and then absolute inset 0. Okay, so this will pull this up. This is our legend, so this will be up in the upper right. This looks good. Notice it's doing the background color. It's looking at this index. That's kind of a neat way to do it with these labels. So, again, it's like it's writing real code here. This isn't just the design. All right. We'll refresh this. Let's see what happened here. Oh, yeah. So we did correctly install Axios. So again, it'll keep going here. We can tell, I know offhand that it's not finished yet because this is still a draft. When this is finished, this will become a real pull request. So if you have that functionality, it's kind of a nice way for Jacob to go and do that. All right, so we'll let Jacob crank away on this in the background. In the meantime, let's take a look at our toast component. So, right, so this one, look at this, what we started off with. So this is intentional, okay? We're starting off by actually outlining all 4 of these variations, right? Now, this isn't the final code. Don't worry. I'm not too worried yet. Hopefully, Jacob will figure out how to pull these together. But the whole point of doing that is to give the LLM the context of like, here's what it should look like. All the specific details from the design pulled in here in this nice, Tailwind format. Okay, so again, this isn't going to be our final thing, but this is just to give the fidelity of the design over to Jacob. Okay, Jacob's working on it. Created this. Oh, looks like we already have a story ready to go here. So that was pretty quick. Let's take a look at what we did. Okay, so let's jump right to the code. All right, this is neat. I love to see this. Okay, so this is where the stories really come in handy. So we actually have all of these variants already set up here. So we have a title, we've got text, bullets, or buttons, and then we can set in these custom messages, right? So this is kind of neat. We get to see, when we pull up the storybook story, we'll be able to play around and see all the different variations in a single call. And so we've got this one, which is, look at it, it pulled in exactly the right thing. So we have the text variant, we got the bullets, we have some messages here. We've got this with the buttons. So all sorts of, all the right tests already in place. Okay, and in this case, we've got this render content switch here. Let's just go down to the main thing, and you can see, sure enough, we've got this as a single component. It's got our, our info circle. Where's our label? Oh, looks like it's in the, oh yeah, there it is. There's our title. So if you notice, every time, let's pull up the design just to double check this. So every time we want to have the title, no matter what, we've got this little info icon here. And then we have this one, which is just a description. We have this one, which is the bullets. And this one has a description plus the buttons. And so let's see how well it rendered these cases. So if it's just text, you just want to show, whatever the very first message is. So that's fine. If it's bullets, loop through, show each one of these, LI, right? Get a little bullet. And then for buttons, here we go. We want to show this this top level message, and then if it is there, otherwise it's fine. And then we want to map out these to an actual button. You can click on these. Which is really nice. It even put this little helper here, a button click, and so you can just pass in these click handlers into this toast, and that should this is pretty solid, right? This all looks good. Let's check this out in Storybook since we have that hosted version. All right, let's see, where's our story? Here it is. Is this deployed yet? We'll try it out. Oh, there it is. Yep. All right, so you can see here. Here's our toast. This is great. All right. So in this case, we have a variant which is with the text. Let's say we wanted to remove this. There we go. There we just got our title. We got a little drop down here. We can kind of choose the different options here. Buttons. Well, let's just jump to a button variant. Sorry, this is bullets. This is our bullets variant. And then here's our buttons. Look at that. You can click on these guys. What do we have here? There we go. We've got these already handled. Everything looks good here. This is pretty slick, right? We've got this whole component set up. And you can imagine if you were going through and creating a component library for your app, how much easier this is to just do a single click, give a description of those variants, and then have it go. All right, and just to wrap up here, let's take a look. Let's see how far along we were able to get with that, with this blood type pie chart. So this thing's been kicking along for a while here. And let's take a look at some of these errors here. Yep, so we've got some TypeScript errors. Any type. This is basically going through just kind of knocking off these types. So it's continuing through. It's gonna work on some of these types. And if you wanted to in the meantime, right, you just grab this, pull it down. You can add in some types or whatever you need to do to try this out. But this is going to get you pretty close to the final code. It's just a matter of, do you want to kind of wait for each of these to go through, or do you want to just go ahead and make those minor updates yourself? All right, so that's basically it. You guys have access to that design file, and it's really kind of a fun exercise to go through, hook Jacob up to one of your repositories, fill out that information, and see how well these designs get pulled in using your own preferred standards, your own icons, your own way of writing styles, all the different things. If you guys have any questions on this, I'm just Kevin at psl.com. Feel free to reach out, leave comments in this video, or jump in. We have a Discord set up. Just go to jacb.ai and get all that information there.